The Chiefs reportedly interested in acquiring a veteran running back. How desperate is that running back room for the Kansas City Chiefs? What does this 53-man roster look like after cut day? We'll get into all that and more. DDP loses his belt to Hamza Chimaev, and the Royals are absolutely on fire. We have a lot to talk about today. So first things first, let's get into some Kansas City Chiefs football. Early this morning, Diana Rossini said Chiefs Twitter ablaze with this tweet right here at the top. Sources telling her that the Saints, Browns, and Chiefs are all looking to acquire a running back, and that is linked the Chiefs to Breece Hall. A lot of chatter around the possibility of the Chiefs going out and acquiring Hall. How bad is the Chiefs running back room? And that was kind of my first thought. You have Kareem Hunt, Isaiah Pacheco, obviously coming off of that broken leg. Me and EDJ have talked about that and how he didn't look like himself towards the end of last season coming off of that injury. I do think that this season will be better for Pacheco. I think that Kareem Hunt's still a viable option, and, you know, Andy Reid runs a committee. I don't think that the running back room is as bad as what some are portraying it out to be. I do think that it's obviously a need. You don't have a guy at running back for the Chiefs whatsoever. Brashard Smith has obviously been a camp darling this season and has, showed up. It's shown on the film against the Seahawks. I feel like he had a couple of really, really good plays, and he can really be an asset. The odd man out is Elijah Mitchell. I don't think that Elijah Mitchell is the guy that the Chiefs were wanting. Maybe, but I don't know. I feel like that the Chiefs have been searching for a Jerick McKinnon replacement, and they have not been able to find it. They need a running back that's going to come in on third down, be able to, chip and help the offensive line out. Hopefully, we see a little bit better offensive line play this year. But I don't think the Chiefs have had that since Jerick McKinnon, of somebody that can go out there, make plays happen, help out, where he needs the help, whether it's with the offensive line or in the receiving game. We didn't see a lot of running out of Jerick McKinnon while he was here. I think maybe Brashard Smith could be that guy, but I also, I haven't seen it on film too much of him chipping. I did see Elijah Mitchell a couple of times where he did not help out, and, it is what it is. I don't think that that's going to work out to where the Chiefs wanted it to be. With the rise of Brashard Smith, does Elijah Mitchell even make this roster? And I'm also not saying that I'm not for going out and getting another running back. I think if the Chiefs want to go out and get another running back, especially a Breece Hall, I do think that that is a completely viable option. So All Chiefed Up also tweeted about an hour after Rossini, probable trade options for the Chiefs. Tyler Algieri from the Falcons, Brian Robinson Jr. from the Commanders, Breece Hall of the Jets, Zach Charbonnet, who they just saw run all over them last Friday night, with Seattle, Dameon Pierce, with the Texans, Travis Etienne, with the Jaguars, Jerome Ford with the Browns, which doesn't really make sense if they're also looking for running back help, that they would trade Jerome Ford, Rachaad White, and Zamir White of the Bucks and Raiders. So I think all of these are some interesting takes. I would take away Jerome Ford because obviously if the Browns are, looking for a running back, they're probably not looking to trade a running back. Zamir White, I'm not too familiar with his game, to be quite honest. Travis Etienne, I think, would be a great option for the Chiefs, especially for trying to fill that role, trying to fill that void that Jerick McKinnon had. Rachaad White, I think another running back that would be good for depth, but, not much of an improvement to the room. Dameon Pierce, he's had his injury issues as well. Charbonnet, I think, would be more of what the Chiefs are looking for. Breece Hall would, I think, come in and be RB1. I mean, maybe after a few weeks, maybe, get into the system a little bit. We'll see. Obviously, it's going to kind of be a rotating door with the Chiefs, I think. And I am very interested. I have been interested to see how the running back room is going to work out in 2025 with bringing back Kareem Hunt. Obviously, Pacheco coming off of the injury. We saw him return. It just wasn't the same Pacheco that we saw before, as well as now getting Smith in there. I think Carson Steele, obviously everybody was big on him. I was big on him going into last season, and I think that's kind of faded away. Brian Robinson Jr., I think would be, I did see where Chiefs Concerns tweeted pass on Brian Robinson, which is Jason Dunn's podcast, but I don't think Brian Robinson Jr., again, another guy that may be able to fill the role that the Chiefs want him to fill, but maybe not much of a huge improvement, right? And then Tyler Algieri, I do think would add, another one like kind of like Brian Robinson Jr. and Travis Etienne that could maybe help fill that role that they're wanting of that, more third down back, come in, help chip for the offensive line. The left side, I mean, we've all focused on. I put a film breakdown on Josh Simmons and Kingsley Suamataia yesterday from the Seattle game. Obviously, they're going to need a little bit of help over there. And, one of these guys to come in and fill that role and help out on third down, especially like third down and medium, third down and long, where you're probably not running the ball. But I thought this was an interesting list that All Chiefed put up on their Twitter. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Do the Chiefs need to go out and acquire another running back? What kind of draft capital would you be comfortable with seeing Veach give up for a running back maybe on this list? Or if you have somebody else in mind, who would you like to see the Chiefs trade for? Obviously, I think we're all in favor. Breece Hall would be an amazing addition to the team. I don't know how that would affect me fantasy-wise, points-wise, although with my league, I think that I could get a steal trading him if Chiefs do trade for Breece Hall. So we'll see either way. Like I said, let me know in the comments below what you guys think about this situation. So I have been all, thinking about this in the last 30 minutes, getting ready to record this and talking about it, that I saw pop up on the side of the screen that we should talk about is the fact that Skyy Moore is no longer a Kansas City Chief. So this story was broke last night at the time of recording. Ian Rappaport announced the trade between the Chiefs and the 49ers that sent Skyy Moore to San Francisco for future 6th and 7th round picks. Not much in return, but the Chiefs do get a little something out of Skyy Moore that I don't think was going to end up making the team. Also, that ain't right for putting that picture up there with the trade of Skyy Moore, of him dropping that pass from last Friday night. Look, it didn't work out with Skyy Moore. If you followed this channel, obviously I've been very critical of Skyy Moore, but I did really see a lot of potential in him, and that is why I feel like I've been very critical, maybe not as much as a lot of you guys and Chiefs Kingdom alike, just because I try not to be too hard on anyone or say anything too crazy. I mean, these are professional athletes at the end of the day. And Skyy Moore, great route runner, great blocker, just has a hard time catching the ball. And that is unfortunately the most important part of of the receiver game, obviously. But Skyy Moore came in and was a punt returner, obviously, had a very tough time with that with the Chiefs. Never returned punts in high school or college, or kicks for that matter. So that was one of a head-scratcher his rookie season to me. So I felt like I always kind of gave him a little bit of leeway in that because, it's got to mess with your confidence. And I don't think that Skyy Moore is able or has ever been able to recover from that in Kansas City, which, you would have liked to have seen, and you would have seen, honestly, with how he performed in that Super Bowl a couple of years ago. Obviously, he had a big touchdown for the Chiefs, won 2 Super Bowls here in Kansas City, and did contribute to winning those Super Bowls. Obviously, sticking out a lot more to people is like the drops in Green Bay, the drop at Denver in that game that just everything went wrong for Kansas City. Obviously, the drop last Friday night, it was a big groan from Chiefs Kingdom, and I'm sure the coaching staff alike, of just more of the same. We saw him return a kick for a touchdown. We also saw him drop a wide open pass, and, it's just unfortunate. I think change of scenery may be good for Skyy Moore. Obviously, that receiving core for the 49ers is depleted at the current moment, and we'll see. We'll see what he ends up producing. We've obviously seen the Chiefs now move on from Skyy Moore. McCole Hardman is with the Packers at the moment, which, I saw somebody joking about him coming back to the Kansas City Chiefs, which I wouldn't be shocked at if the Packers let him go. That's a crowded receiver room for him to fit in. Obviously didn't work out with the Jets a couple of years ago. The Chiefs traded back for Mecole Hardman, but best of luck to Skyy Moore in his future endeavors with the San Francisco 49ers, and we will see how he ends up working out. I think that offense might be better for him, honestly. We'll see, but getting him in a Kyle Shanahan offense, maybe where you can move him around and, make something easy for him. I don't know. It's like that one last Friday night, the easiest play. I mean, obviously they were in the rain. You can see in the picture, but Skyy Moore no longer Kansas City Chiefs. He is on with the San Francisco 49ers. That brings me to the roster in general of the 53-man of what we're kind of looking at, where this running back room is very interesting. A lot of speculation if the Chiefs will keep 4 running backs or 4 tight ends possibly. And what's kind of going on with the cornerback situation, especially with Noel Williams going down with a concussion. We saw FAU that he has been placed on IR for the 2025 season and probably will not see him in 2025. Looking deeper into this roster, I think with the Noel Williams injury, Deion Bush injury, you worry about depth in the secondary possibly. I think Josh Williams, who Matt Derrick mentioned, could have been on the chopping block. Probably not anymore just because of that, very reason of having depth. Like I said, Noel Williams in concussion protocol with the defensive line. Where do they go with the defensive line, and who, maybe Malik Herring is a guy that ends up not making the team. Looks like Jerry Tillery has been, really put in with the defense, and looks like they've got a plan for him. So I don't plan on seeing Tillery get cut. Tua Balotu, that's another, kind of on the bubble name right there. I mentioned Carson Steele a minute ago. I don't think that he's going to make this team in 2025. Like what we've seen out of Jeffrey Bassa, though. I will have a film breakdown coming on him in the near future, here in the next couple of days, because I do really like what we've seen out of Jeffrey Bassa in the preseason so far. Offensive line is another interesting one. Obviously, you're going to still have Wanye Morris on this offensive line. Jalen Moore, what happens with him? Especially, there's really no spot for him. Maybe he ends up sliding in at left guard if it doesn't work out with Kingsley Suamataia. We've seen him worked in at guard in the preseason. So I think, those are a few linemen that are very safe on this roster. Running back-wise, I'm not convinced that Elijah Mitchell makes this team. Quarterback-wise, too, where do they go? The Chiefs have traditionally kept 2 quarterbacks. Do they? I don't know if there's really a need to keep either one, Oladokin or Zappy. Zappy has not looked good in the preseason whatsoever. Oladokin has been the practice squad quarterback for a few years now, since Shane Buechele went to Buffalo. And he's been the main guy on the practice squad. Brashard Smith, I think at this point, definitely ends up making this team. Now looking at safeties, well, we have interesting that Nazeeh Johnson's labeled as a safety here on this page, which I'm not sure if I passed the receivers already, but Skyy Moore is still on the list as of right now. But yeah, I am, and Shamari Connor labeled a DB. I don't know, the distinguishing on the page or the roster page for the Chiefs, a little interesting. Then looking at tight end. Tight end, I think, is another interesting position. As I mentioned, do the Chiefs roll with 4? Obviously, Travis Kelce, Noah Gray, and I think Jared Wiley by default are the 3. But is there a 4th? Has Robert Tonyan done enough to make this team? I don't think that anybody else has a chance of making this team. Probably send Jake Brenningstool to the practice squad. Outside of that, Robert Tonyan, we'll see. I mean, maybe if they can get him through waivers and get him a veteran spot on the practice squad so they still have him available, possibly. Here's the receiver. Skyy Moore still on the list. Nico Remigio, we talked about, of course, heading into last season a lot. Does he have a spot on this team? And then you also look at names like Tyquan Thornton as well as Jason Brownlee. that we've talked about. And, he looked great on that first drive, that pass from Mahomes in Arizona. He did not play until the end of the game last Friday night. And interesting on Locked On Chiefs, they kind of talked about maybe trying to tuck him and hide him to get him through waivers and get him on the practice squad for the Chiefs. So maybe playing a little bit of chess right there with Jason Brownlee, trying to get him in, and that's a guy that the Chiefs like and want to keep around but don't necessarily have a roster spot for him. Hollywood Brown is officially back with the team. He is good to go. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with this roster. Personally, I think that they end up keeping 4 tight ends. I think that Tunyon has done enough. I think that Andy likes that. He likes having as many tight ends as he can get on the roster, just for the different formation things that Andy likes to do throughout the season. So I do see 4 tight ends, and we'll see where they go with the other ones, because running back is interesting. If they do, like we were talking about, trade for a running back, where does that fit in? Do they keep 4 running backs then? Who is the odd man out? I think obviously Elijah Mitchell is, but if they only keep 3, who else, goes? Is it, I can't see Kareem Hunt or obviously Isaiah Pacheco getting cut, still on his rookie deal, but that means Brashard Smith is going to the practice squad more than likely. And you got to worry about if any other team is interested in Brashard Smith, which I think they'll be good. 7th round running back. I think they'll be all right keeping Brashard Smith on their practice squad if they choose to do so. I'd be shocked if Brashard Smith doesn't make this roster and Elijah Mitchell does, no matter what the situation, whether they bring in another running back or not. I would be shocked to see Mitchell make it over Brashard Smith. So the Kansas City Chiefs, they head in tomorrow night as the time of recording. I'm trying to get this out tonight. This is Thursday evening I'm recording. They are at home. I will be at Arrowhead for the first time in 2012. Well, that's not true, but for the 2025 season, because I was at the AFC Championship game last year against Buffalo. But we will see them take on the Chicago Bears. I'm interested in this matchup, and if it's a reverse of last Friday night, just for the simple fact that the Chiefs have swapped out their games, with game 2 being, being able to see this roster and being able to kind of get some opinions on who they're planning to keep, who they're planning to cut, and whereas now this Friday night is going to be the dress rehearsal. We more than likely and hopefully will see the starters for at least a quarter. I would assume they play longer than that. I would assume they play maybe 3-4 drives no matter what that means, whether that's all of the second quarter or most of the second quarter. We'll see, to be determined. Andy obviously said that every quarterback was going to get a quarter last week, and that did not happen with Patrick Mahomes not even playing. So this Brazil game, I think, has thrown a lot, into the mix, and Andy always has his own way of preparing for everything. So I think that that's what we're seeing right now. But I do think that, and hopefully we get to see a lot out of Josh Simmons and Kingsley Suamataia, because in my film breakdown that I put out yesterday or Wednesday this week, I talked about, it feels like, or maybe this was just a comment, but, first contact, Kingsley's not doing a great job with in pass pro. And I think, and this is what, everybody has said, that he just needs the reps. He needs to get those reps in. And I do think that, they need to play him for as much in this preseason game as they can, as well as Josh Simmons. I think Josh Simmons has obviously looked better. He's had his moments, though, where, he's a rookie. He's a rookie left tackle. So sometimes, most of the time, it's going to take these guys a few years to develop, and especially to get cohesiveness and chemistry on that offensive line, I think is big. I think by the end of the season that they will look good together, all 5 of the offensive linemen. And, we could go further down the rabbit hole and talk about what the future holds for this offensive line. But I think as far as just talking about this season, I think that it will take them maybe at least 8 games to really get in a little bit of a groove. I think that Kingsley is a little bit more protected at guard than he was at tackle. And obviously the Chiefs didn't let that play out last year. So we'll see how short of a leash it is kind of so to speak, with Kingsley Suamataia, where if they liked what they saw out of Jalen Moore enough when they threw him at guard, or I would be kind of shocked if he loses the left guard position to Wanye Morris. I think obviously you're going to look at Jalen Moore next, where kind of rotating him wherever, but he hasn't played guard either, so that's something he's also learning. So we'll see what Andy Heck decides to do with this offensive line moving through the season, but I'm very hopeful with Kingsley and Josh Simmons on the left side that really helps out and gives the Chiefs a little bit of stability by the mid to maybe 3/4 through the season, 8 to 12 games in, and hopefully by the time that the Chiefs get towards the playoffs and into that playoff push, that this is a very cohesive group that, may not be the best in the league, but, very, very serviceable, we'll say. So let's switch it up and talk some baseball now, and these Kansas City Royals have been on fire. They've won 6 out of 7. Vinny Pasquantino has homered in 4 straight games. Mike Yastrzemski has been on fire as well. EDJ not here today to talk Royals baseball. I feel like he gives us the best insight. There's no need to talk about my Cardinals, let's be honest. They aren't doing anything great. But these Royals, man, they are right on pace. And we talked about this last week, about the stretch coming up and just, the final stretch of this season, the dog days of August, all the, stuff that you want to say about the end of the season in baseball, the pennant race, all that good stuff. The Royals are in a good position, and going into the weekend, they're going at Detroit. They have a chance to make up some ground in the AL Central, and then the White Sox after that, who they just swept last weekend. So then they got the Tigers again. So they've got a couple rough 6 games, couple rough series with the Tigers coming up, but they do get that White Sox series in the middle. I think that this team can very much make the playoffs. I mean, it's right within grasp. Let's look at the standings right now, where the Royals are. They sit 2 games out of the wild card, 9.5 behind Detroit, which I say make up some ground on the Tigers, but realistically, I mean, 9.5 back with a month and a week left to play of baseball. Probably not going to be able to make up enough ground to contend with the Tigers, obviously with the Tigers being one of the best teams in baseball. And I think, let's look at these records. The Brewers with 80 wins that have just been absolutely insane lately. They are the best team in baseball, and then the Tigers. So unless the Royals are going to become the second best team in baseball, which, I mean, crazier things have happened heading into the last month and some change of the season. But the Royals are 8-2 in their last 10. They won today. They lost the day before, but other than that, I mean, they've been on fire. The run differential at -1, they got that back. EDJ texted me the other day saying they are above in run differential for the first time this season, and they get back below that. But if they can continue to keep doing what they're doing right now, they will be right back there. Teams over 500, 22-37. That worries me. It worried me last year. I know talked about Bryce about that. So I don't know. I think that this is definitely a team that can make the playoffs. How far do they go in the playoffs? It is yet to be seen if they do get there. I want to go to the wild card just to see exactly how that's shaping up. So at the moment, in the wild card, you've got the Yankees, Red Sox, Mariners, and then the Royals. Who are the Royals going to be able to knock off? They're 2.5 games behind the Red Sox, 2 games behind the Mariners, and then you've also got 4 total games that the Yankees are up on the Royals. So very much an opportunity to get there. But I will point out with the Royals, the optics in this scenario. I just talked about teams over 500. The Yankees are 500 against teams over 500. The Red Sox 1 game under, as well as the Mariners. Where then you look at the Royals that are well under that, 15 games under 500 against teams that are over 500. So jump back to the schedule real quick, and me and EDJ went over this last week, and the Tigers, I mean, if they can pull out 1 game, I think over the weekend, they're red hot right now. I mean, you could very likely pull out 2 games against the Tigers over the weekend on the road. I think you have to win the series against the White Sox. Obviously, you'd like to see a sweep and then come back home, win the series against the Tigers at home, try to stay hot, and then you go into series against the Angels, Twins, the Guardians, a little bit tougher, but right now we'll go back to those standings, see where they're at. They're 64 and 62 right there with the Royals, so that's going to be a very pivotal series right there with the Cleveland Guardians, September 8th through the 11th. The Phillies, that's going to be a tough series, but some really intriguing series because then you get the Mariners for 3 games at home and a team that you are directly competing with for a wild card spot right now. The Cleveland Guardians, same thing. You're competing directly with them for that last wild card spot. They are right there behind you, a game. And so the Royals control their own destiny here at the end, I think. Especially having that Mariners series in there. And then you get a couple of, relatively optics-wise easier series with the Angels and A's. You got to go on the road to do it. But, again, a better matchup. The month of September is going to be the make or break month. And you started off getting the Angels at home and the Twins at home. That needs to be a very good homestand following that series against the Detroit Tigers over the weekend. Then you head into September and get 6 games at home versus the Angels and Twins. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think about the Royals. Are they going to end up in the playoffs? They're 2 games back of the wild card right now. They can do it. I mean, and especially the way this team is playing, I really sincerely think this team ends up in the postseason once again. Now, again, like I said, how far do they get? Let me know in the comments below how far you think the Royals can get in 2025, but the future is very bright in Kansas City when talking about baseball. Last but certainly not least, we got to get to MMA, and I've got a couple of topics to talk about MMA, and we got to start off right here with Johnny Bones Jones. He just seems to always find himself in the news or figure out how to get himself in the news. As of recently, obviously we had the Tom Aspinall situation, wouldn't defend his belt, finally retired. Then the White House thing came to fruition that they're going to have a card at the White House. All of a sudden, John Jones wants to fight now. Then we learned that he turned down $30 million to fight Tom Aspinall. He said, no, I would not like a $30 million payday to defend my belt against the number 1 contender, the interim champion. And we know that he was holding up the division for as long as he was. And now we have, apparently Daniel Cormier went on Shannon Sharp's podcast, Club Shay Shay. I have not watched the interview or the episode with Daniel Cormier yet. I'll probably get to it over the weekend. So I'm not 100% sure what Cormier said. But John Jones felt he needed to respond with the, let's see how to put this, because they're not allegations, because John Jones has tested positive for steroids. We know he tested positive for Turinabol. We know that after the first time he fought Cormier, he had very weird, very low testosterone levels, which is similar to someone that is cycling steroids. Their testosterone levels are going to go down once they get off of it. I might be talking outside of my neck, so take it for what you will. You take estrogen blockers or something to that effect, or estrogen. That's how Manny Ramirez got popped when he got popped for steroids. It wasn't for actual steroids. It was for estrogen, trying to get those levels natural again and something to that. I don't know. There's a science behind it. I've never used steroids, so I'm not 100% sure behind all of it. So, John Jones says, high school state champ, JUCO national champ, youngest UFC champion, greatest in MMA history. Big asterisk next to that one. A lifetime of loss, victories, and sacrifice, and this guy wants to write it all off as steroids. Honestly, it's insulting. But I can't help but laugh knowing it was God-given abilities that made him feel so inferior. I mean, personally, I don't know. And I know the MMA community is completely torn on John Jones, and I get it. I mean, he is probably the greatest fighter of all time, but has also destroyed every last bit of credibility and everything of his career, I think, over the last 10 years. I'm personally not going to say that him not defending the belt against Tom Aspinall ruined his career. He did not ruin his reputation off that. He ruined He ruined his reputation. If I can talk. He ruined his reputation by getting popped for steroids and now thinking about it, I think that's what it was, because I saw a tweet about it, that Daniel Cormier can't consider Anderson Silva or John Jones for GOAT status because of their steroid use. It's been documented. We know that you tested positive for steroids. It's not insulting. It is what it is. I'm not willing to necessarily write off his whole career as steroids. I don't think that, me and Ray have talked about this and just talked it out. I do think that his steroid use started somewhere in the title run. I don't even necessarily think he was on roids before he won the title. I think all of that might have been natural. But I think that maybe the Gus fight, because I think he had like one or two fights in between the Gus fight and the Cormier fight, but the Cormier fight was the first Cormier fight was the first time where, when I was doing a little bit of research, just, curious and thinking about maybe doing something on John Jones's title run and pitting him against GSP of who had the greatest title run, and I was doing some research for it, that there was an article that was buried that I don't even remember this. Maybe very vaguely remember this at the time, but, somebody had reported about his testosterone levels being really oddly low. The UFC should go into more testing or figure out what's actually going on with John Jones surrounding that fight and his, drug tests for that fight. So, we know for a fact that this has been going on since the first Cormier fight. It's documented. I mean, it is out there. And whether you want to believe it or not, that's up to you. But it is out there. And whether you think that everybody was on steroids, maybe. I mean, I think there was a lot of people in that time period that was on steroids. Some of them got caught, some of them didn't. Some of them got around it. Look at, me and Ray were just talking about TRT Tour. Vitor Belfort in the Brazil days. There's a reason he fought in main events in Brazil for a year or so before he got the title shot against Weidman. There's a reason why he looked like he was 22 again. And then all of a sudden, when he had to come fight in America against Chris Weidman, he looked like an old man. What he was. He was in his 40s. It happens. It happens to us all. Age happens. But back to John Jones. I mean, I just find all of it laughable after, even his little Twitter run that he went on about Dana saying, that he wouldn't put trust in John Jones for the White House card because you can't trust John Jones, which, whatever, that's a promoter thing. And, obviously John Jones has had, and not even necessarily bringing in all of the, outside the octagon stuff, obviously hampered his career big time. It hampered his activity, and it hampered, us seeing a great fighter, That has something to do. I don't think that necessarily, how do I put this, if you can separate I don't want to just call John Jones a bad guy, he may very well be. I don't know John Jones as a person, so I can't speak on that. I just know what's been reported and stuff, but, his run-ins with the law or whatever's happened, obviously the Hall of Fame thing that happened, if you could separate all of that from the fighter, even then, I still think his reputation is kind of moot. Because, again, how many times has, they had to move the fight, the second fight with Gus. They had to move it from Vegas to California in like 2 weeks because of they weren't going to let him fight because of a drug test. I just don't understand why so many people gloss over and why John Jones acts like he didn't get tested. He didn't pop for steroids. He did. We were all there, or I was there. I'm old. I was very much paying attention to everything going on in MMA at that time. So I don't know, but I did want to talk about this just because it's been big in the news. I've seen it circulate, and Twitter and whatnot altogether. So next, we will get into UFC 319. I'm not going to go into the whole card, but we're going to talk about the main event. If you are still here at this point in the video, in the podcast, I greatly appreciate you. And smash that subscribe button for me. We are 24 subs away from 500. I'm trying to hit 500 before the football season begins. We're right there. We're right there. Hit that sub button for me. Hit that like button too if you are enjoying this podcast. As the last thing that I have to get into is DDP versus Khamzat Chimaev. Khamzat Chimaev, 5-0 sweep of DDP, winning the middleweight championship, which I don't want to say I saw coming because I believed in DDP, but for some reason, as soon as I start believing in somebody, especially a guy like DDP that maybe I didn't really believe in, it seems like they lose. So maybe the Schro curse, but nonetheless, Khamzat gets the victory. Saw a lot of backlash about this, that it was boring. Just wrestled him the whole time. Yeah, that's part of the sport. That's part of mixed martial arts. And, you know, I get it that not everybody sees the grappling game as entertaining, doesn't know the nuances of the grappling game and things like that. But I would say the same thing, similar to Trey Wingo said a few years ago when the Rams played the Patriots in the Super Bowl, and the Patriots won, obviously very defensive game. But for everybody whining, it's boring. It's, you know, this, it's that. When nobody wants to watch this, shut up. Shut up and turn it off then. It's wrestling. Wrestling, jiu-jitsu, judo, kickboxing, Muay Thai, boxing, karate, taekwondo. It's mixed martial arts. And if that's the path to get you a world championship, wrestle, you know, beat him on the ground. If he couldn't submit him, you know, like control. Go for the finish with punches or, you know, I feel like I still can't put my finger on it to this day about GSP, what made him exciting to everyone. I think most people, I mean, there was definitely a lull in there where people were over it, you know, just like people are over the Chiefs being successful right now. But GSP, I feel like, was still exciting even when he was just out wrestling guys. And I don't know whether, you know, what that was about GSP. If it was just, you know, such a big fight feel whenever GSP's fighting, something to that effect, or what exactly. But, I hate to tell you that wrestling is part of the game. And, you know, I think too often we see fights get stood up prematurely or, you know, not enough action, you know, for the casual fans. Like, you know, just learn this game a little bit. It's all very exciting. You know, and I get there are boring fights out there, but it's part of the game. You know, I think the boring, or air quote boring, parts of the sport, in fights like this, where it's just the difference between keeping control, maybe like slight hand positioning, or, you know, little nuanced things that I don't think the average fan understands and, you know, knows, or that somebody that hasn't been in there, hasn't been in a wrestling room ever, hasn't been, you know, in an MMA gym or a jiu-jitsu gym or anything of that nature, that you just don't quite understand. And, you know, I talk a lot about, you know, like George Karloftis in his film breakdown, you know, and I've made this correlation a few times on, I think, just film breakdowns, but now talking about it on the pod, is that getting that experience and knowing that world really, you know, in the trenches, shows you a lot with the hand fighting. Like, you can understand that. So I don't know, man. I get the backlash from the casual fans. What I would say, just sit down, take some time to learn the game of grappling a little bit more, a little bit better. There's a lot of nuance to the ground game, just as there is to the stand-up game. I mean, when you see two high-level technical strikers fighting, the Poirier-Holloway fight we saw last month, where you get two guys like that, is very interesting to watch. Any boxing match where it's two very high-level guys going at it, you know, it may come off as boring, but there's so many things going on that the naked eye can't necessarily see. that makes it boring to you. So I don't know. That would be my bit of advice. Talking about boxing, one last thing to talk about. I had to get to this real quick right here at the end. Gervonta Davis meets Jake Paul in a boxing match. It's going to be the first legit contender, legit boxer. I mean, Tommy Fury, legit boxer. I mean, but obviously not a true contender that he's fighting. But I mean, Gervonta Davis, I mean, he has got some wins on his resume. And November 14th, right before your boy's birthday in Atlanta, Georgia, live only on Netflix, it will be Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis. I'm very interested. I got to get somebody that is more boxing savvy on the pod to talk about this with. Talking to you, Randy. I'm talking to you, Ray. One of you guys got to come on here. We got to talk about this. Just because I think this finally makes it interesting. I think that this finally makes Jake Paul interesting. I think I was getting to a point where I'd really lost a lot of interest in it. At first, it was kind of fun to, just the wild fights, the freak show boxing matches to see him, whether it was the Nate Robinson, obviously all the older tired MMA guys, that got me all riled up as an MMA guy to, stop letting this dude knock out all of our, legends. I mean, he's fought and beat Tyron Woodley, Ben Askren, Anderson Silva. I mean, all three legends of the sport. And yes, I would die on that hill that all three of those guys are legends of the sport. But now seeing him against some legitimate competition in Gervonta Davis after he got his ranking, I think is the right way to take it. I mean, if Jake Paul is seriously trying to contend in the boxing world, this is the path right now. This is the path that will lead him to bigger matchups. I mean, he brings the money. People do come watch him. So I don't think that's, you have to worry about that. Jake Paul brings the money. Maybe promoters are maybe a little bit worried about dealing with him. I mean, I don't know too much about like his promotion and how that works. I'm an MMA guy, not a boxing guy. So I do understand the side of promoters, but as far as I know, I mean, he's promoting himself. He's using his money to back it all and whatnot. Obviously, he's got this deal with Netflix now, but as far as I know, it's kind of like how Floyd was back in the day, where you had Mayweather Productions or whatever it was, Productions, but I can't remember the exact wording of it. But he's promoting himself. That's why he was always coming away with the most money. He's always negotiating for more money. He's always getting a huge payday. I mean, that man made multiple people's lifetime sums in one boxing match multiple times at the end of his career. Very smart. Very savvy businessman. And Jake Paul's done the same. So, but if he wants to get on that path to fight legitimate boxers, this is the pathway. So I'm actually very interested for this matchup between him and Davis and see how it works. I just don't see how. I don't know. I don't. The way he did Ryan Garcia, if he can get Jake Paul like that and sneak in an overhand or a right hand over the top, I definitely think Gervonta Davis can give Jake Paul obviously more problems than he's dealt with in his career as a boxer, if you want to call it that. I know everybody has their own opinion about Jake Paul and his boxing career. So let me know in the comments below. Are you guys excited about this at all? Still just a freak show to you? Or also, I mean, allegedly, we'll make it to see if these things are fixed or not, because I don't know how much I really believe Jake Paul could beat a guy like Gervonta Davis. He beats him and knocks him out. I'm just saying, maybe we see the move. Maybe we see what's been going on the whole time. Maybe everybody was right. But I do think Jake Paul's put in a lot of work to be where he's at and, done a great job. And I think he takes it very seriously. And that's why, I did respect it. I do respect what Jake Paul has done. I didn't like the Tyson fight. I did not like the Tyson fight. It was fun for the first round to see Tyson, throwing punches, but it's a 60-year-old man. I don't think that should have happened. But, hey, Tyson signed up for it. It is what it is. So either way, that will do it for the podcast this week. We'll be back next week with a new guest, hopefully. So as well as I know EDJ is going to be back here soon. We got a lot to talk about. Football season coming up. Mizzou starts next Thursday night. Their first game at Faurot Field next Thursday night against, I think, Central Arkansas. Should be an easy win for the Tigers. Maybe we'll finally get to see who the quarterback is. But we're going to definitely be talking Mizzou football coming up this upcoming week. A lot of Chiefs stuff to get to over the next week as well. Obviously, final preseason game coming up tomorrow in Kansas City. We'll have cut day coming up, and the season's right around the corner. So, and more Royals baseball to talk about because them boys are on fire. Until next time, your boy Papa Schro. We'll see you.